For one, there were these glimmering white numbers that were pasted above everyone's head. It was also like a new purpose that had been given to my life. All of these years later, I couldn't tell you what it is. Even that feeling of purpose has seemed dim. Having no possible clue what the numbers could mean, I did the reasonable thing any kid would do. Ask the nearest adult, "Hey, Dad, what does the number 47 mean?" I wrote it on a notepad and the hospital staff had given me to write since I wasn't able to use my vocal cords correctly yet. My father bunched his eyes in confusion. "What are you talking about, Harry?" I scribbled some more. "The number above your head, the 47. What does it mean?" "Are you sure you're feeling all right?" he asked, eyeing me up and down unconsciously like I had just committed a very serious crime. I nodded my head. I felt fine. I just wanted to know what the damn numbers stood for. Instead of answering my question, Dad left the room to track down the nearest doctor. The rest of that afternoon was spent getting a whole bunch of brain scans done. All of them came back normal. I had no growths, tumors, or brain bleeds that would explain why I was seeing numbers above everyone's head. That night, I sat in the hospital bed feeling dejected. Nobody could explain to me why I was seeing things nobody else saw. My mother was beside me, rubbing my hand, trying to comfort me. The number 45 glimmered over her head. Drowning in self-pity and tired from being poked and pursued all day, I fell asleep. That night, I had a dream about the lady in the garden again. She held me in a tight, warm embrace and then whispered something in my ear. When I woke up the next morning, I felt better, enlightened. "Mom, how old are you?" I scribbled on the closest napkin after she brought me breakfast. "That's an interesting question, dear," she told me. "That's a rude question to ask a lady, but I'm 45. It was then when I knew I could see people's ages. After another month in the hospital, I was finally released and able to go home. What is the first thing you thought I did after coming home from the hospital? Told all my friends my new ability, of course. This, my friends, is my ability started to ruin my life. Nobody believed me, even when I tried to prove it. Nobody even thought it was cool that I was supposedly able to see how old a person was. My friends dumped me, and I became known as a freak who told lies about everything. The bullying was bad too. Oh God, the bullying. Even my teachers got so annoyed at the insistence of my abilities that my parents were called. I got a lecture, and the only thing I learned from it was to keep my mouth shut and don't tell anyone that I was able to see ages. All it would lead to was pain and misery. We eventually moved out of that town, and I got to move schools, and I got a new fresh start to go to school where nobody thought I was weird or a liar. Of course, I didn't dare tell anyone about my ability or my past either. I was never the same after that. I stuck to staying in the shadows. Nobody would notice me if they didn't know I was there after all. To this day, I regret my decision to tell anybody about my curse. My high school came and went, and I graduated. The high school was enough for me, so I didn't move to higher education. Instead, I did the only responsible thing a person in my situation could do: become a bartender. The pay was adequate for the long hours I worked. I got to sleep in on most days, and my boss was chill. His name is Marky, and he owns Marky's, the bar I work at. The place was small and barely up to health code, but I considered it my second home. My first home being the apartment above the bar that Marky's leased to me. My ability made my job a little bit easier, especially when the state sent me a miner to make sure we were IDing people. I was always at the top of my game. Their spy wouldn't make it 3 steps from the door before I turned them away. When their fake ID didn't check out either, they sulked right out of the bar. Every time a kid came in with their iconic fake ID, they got turned down. When they protested that they were of age, I told them that the cops could come down here and verify the age for themselves. That usually got them to stop mouthing off and leave. Now, tonight was like any other night at Marky's. I'd been in the middle of a small rush around midnight, how it usually was that time of night, slinking drinks after drink. I was also alone, as usual, seeing as I was a seasoned bartender, and I really didn't need a backup or another bartender, even though the extra help might have been nice. Marky couldn't afford it, though. It was busy enough where I didn't see she slipped in. I had turned around to blend the third frozen margarita for Gladys, one of Marky's regulars. I was stuck in a conversation with her about how good it was to be youthful. Gladys was still full of shit. She always went around telling everyone she's only 46, but her true age sat right above her head in a big, bold number saying 59. When I turned back, I noticed the woman sitting there at the end of the bar.
As it became second nature to me, I glanced above her head, slightly seeing her age. The frozen margarita almost fell out of my hands. The woman had been typing away at her phone, so she didn't notice me fumbling. I quickly handed Gladys her margarita before hesitantly trying to recollect myself. "What can I get for you tonight?" I asked her as confidently as I could muster. I rubbed my eyes, pretending to be a little sleepy. In reality, I rubbed my eyes to make sure I was seeing her age correctly. Above the woman's head, it stark white letters as the number above was 300. At first, I thought I misread the number. After all, she looked like she must have been in her early 30s, not 300. But alas, the number 300 was still firmly there. Her hair was long, wavy, and dark shade of ebon, as if her hair was the night sky itself. She had glimmering brown eyes that had this hunger behind them. She wore a shade of red lipstick that popped out at you. For her pale complexion, the color really looked good on her. Ever since I've gained my ability, the only ages I've seen were normal ones, only go into the 3 digits once, when I met a World War I veteran. This woman had to be the oldest person I've ever seen. Against my better judgment, I chalked her number up to be somehow being a fluke. There's no way someone could actually live to 300 years old, right? "I'll have a Bloody Mary," she said with a toothy smile. Something about her perfect white teeth sent shivers down my spine. It irked me. "Anything else I can get for you?" I asked, remembering it was rude to stare, although she seemed to relieve in the uneasy look in my eyes. "Names are a powerful thing, you know," the woman stated as she rested her chin on the backs of her hand. I could tell she was toying with me. I chuckled as I grabbed a tall, skinny glass and a stalk of celery. Well, my name has no power to it. I'm Harry. It's nice to meet you. I stuck my hand out to her. She smiled and let out a laugh.